So we have actually found the cure for death.
Oh, well, that is certainly a bold way to start a conversation.
No, I know. I know exactly how that sounds. It sounds like, it sounds like clickbait, right?
A bit of snake oil.
Yeah, exactly. Like a snake oil pitch from the 1800s. But I'm not using that phrase metaphorically here. I'm
No.
not talking about living on through your children or, your art or your legacy.
Right, you mean the literal biological cessation of dying.
Exactly. I'm talking about reverting the body to a specific age and just holding it there
Forever.
forever. Or, well, to be precise, for at least 8,000 years to start with. Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm your host, and today we are unpacking a stack of documents that are, um, without exaggeration, some of those dense, ambitious, and just wildly specific things we've ever covered.
Yeah, you really are.
We're looking at the manifesto, the technical manual, and the theological doctrine of an organization called Tomorrow's World Order, or TWO, which is led by a man named David Gomadza.
And, ambitious is really the operative word here, because usually when we do a deep dive into radical theories, they tend to stay in one lane.
Right, like they pick a topic and stick to it.
Exactly. You get a political manifesto about how to run a government, or you get a sci-fi technical manual about future tech, or maybe a religious text about the soul. But Gomadza has effectively taken all three of those genres, thrown them into a blender, and just hit puree.
It's a total system.
It is a total system. He is presenting a political party that wants to establish a one-world government, a theology that completely redefines the relationship between God and man, and crucially, a software manual for the human body.
Right, and when you say software manual, you really are being poetic. I was reading through the documentation for his product, which he calls Advanced Genetic Synthesis Technology, or AGT 8000, and it doesn't read like a medical text at all.
No, not in the slightest.
It reads like a command line interface for a computer.
And that is absolutely central to the whole premise, because Gomadza views the human body not as this mysterious biological vessel, but as programmable hardware.
Okay.
The core argument here is that death is not an inevitability. It's not a natural law like gravity. It's a condition. He basically says it's a bug.
Like a glitch in the system.
Exactly. And like any glitch, he argues it can be patched if you just have the right code.
So let's get into the product itself before we tackle the philosophy. Because unlike most, spiritual gurus who say meditate and you'll achieve enlightenment, Gomadza is essentially selling a SaaS product, software as a service.
He is. And the pricing model outlined in the source material is fascinatingly specific.
It really is.
For the general public, for you and me, he proposes a subscription model. It is roughly $17 a month for 1 year.
$17. That's less than a Netflix subscription. It's oddly democratic when you think about it.
It is accessible. But if you happen to be a billionaire, the text suggests a lump sum of $1 million. And for that, you get what he calls lifelong upgrades.
Which is such a tech way to frame immortality.
Right. He treats immortality like a utility bill. In fact, the text explicitly tells you that when you want to initiate these biological changes, you don't pray. You contact utilities.
Utilities, like you're calling the water company to fix a leak, but the leak is your own mortality.
That's the exact mindset he's asking for.
But let's look at the mechanics, because this is where I found myself having to stop and reread the page. It's not just take this pill and you're good. It involves what Gomadza calls body resets.
105 of them, to be exact.
And they are incredibly granular.
They are. The idea is that to live for 8,000 years, you have to recalibrate specific biological switches back to their creation state. And the text lists everything from resetting the anus and the tongue perimeter to something called the shoulder fifi.
Okay, wait. I have to pause on the shoulder fifi. Because I have looked at a lot of anatomy charts in my life, and I have never seen a fifi.
You definitely won't find that in Grey's Anatomy. But in Gomadza's system, it's a specific pressure point or structural component that needs to be aligned. And then, of course, there is the shit belt.
The shit belt. Yeah, I stared at that phrase for a long time. It sounds as an insult, but he treats it as a vital organ system.
He does. It seems to refer to the lower intestinal tract or the colon region. But you have to look at the measurements he demands for these resets. He talks about recalibrating telomere lengths from 8 centimeters to 72 centimeters.
Which is massive, right?
It's physically impossible by our current understanding of biology. Telomeres are microscopic.
Right, they're tiny caps on our DNA.
Exactly. But Gomadza uses these macro measurements, centimeters, millimeters, to convey precision. He's telling the reader that this isn't magic. This is engineering. You are tuning an engine.
And the method for doing this tuning is this very specific mantra. Cut, copy, paste, enter, save, save, seal.
Word processing logic applied directly to DNA.
You literally cut the death or the disease out of the cell, paste in the new instructions, and save the work. But here is where I got a little skeptical reading through this. If I'm just cutting and pasting code into my body, what stops a cancer cell from doing the exact same thing? What stops the disease from hacking the system?
That is where the Love Think protocol comes in. This is his security layer.
See, that sounds like a generic hippie slogan. Love Think.
It does, but if you strip away the name, it's actually a description of a biological firewall. Gomadza argues that the brain, our primary processor, is compromised. It's easily hacked by stress, by lies, or by what he calls digital viruses.
So you can't trust the brain to run the immortality software.
Exactly. You need a secure server. He identifies this as the heart and the enteric nervous system, which is the gut brain. The Love Think protocol is essentially an authentication system.
Okay, how does that work?
Imagine a bouncer at a club checking IDs. The brain might let a cancer cell in because it looks like a normal cell, but the heart asks for the authentication factor.
It checks the digital signature.
Correct. It asks, who are you? If the cell cannot provide the correct signature of the host, if it's a rogue cancer cell, the heart identifies it as a foreign agent and shuts it down.
Wow.
He frames the heart not as an emotional center, but as the ultimate admin user that cannot be hacked.
So once you've done the resets and you've got your heart firewall running, there's this ritualistic aspect that comes next involving a machine. The beauty machine. And this gets very spatial.
Very. This is where the cut, copy, paste moves into the physical world. The user has to stand facing specific compass directions. True north, then 15 degrees north, then minus 28 degrees from south.
And you have to issue voice commands.
Right.
Hell.send and planetbin.send. I need you to explain planetbin to me.
Yeah.
Because when I first read it, I thought it was just a metaphor for getting rid of bad thoughts. But he gives actual coordinates.
He does. He locates it at exactly 3,333 kilometers from Earth. Gomadza is very consistent with his computer logic. In a computer, when you delete a file, it doesn't just vanish into the ether.
It goes to the trash bin.
It goes to the trash bin. It still exists. It's just contained.
So matter cannot be created or destroyed. It just gets moved to the recycle bin in space.
Exactly. If you have menopause or wrinkles or old age, Gomadza views these as corrupted files or evils. You can't just wish them away. You have to bundle them up and execute the command planetbin.send.
You are physically transmitting the entropy out of your body to a containment server in orbit.
That's the idea.
It's wild, but it's oddly empowering. It reframes aging. You aren't getting old. You're just failing to empty the trash.
And that agency is the hook. Because if you accept his premise that we can cure death, you immediately have to answer the next logical question.
Why haven't we?
Right. Why is everyone still dying?
And this is where the documents take a very sharp turn. We kind of leave the medical bay and enter the war room. Because Gomadza says our mortality isn't natural, it's a conspiracy.
This is his hacking at birth theory. And honestly, I think this is the darkest part of the source material.
It's terrifying.
He describes a reality where governments, specifically in the developed world, hack their citizens the moment they are born. He claims that chips or medical devices are implanted in infants without consent.
He calls it putting everyone on death row from day one.
Right. And while he mentions surveillance, like tracking your location or monitoring your dreams with these wearable brain books, the primary purpose of these chips is actually economic. It's about population control.
He links it to the pension crisis.
He does. He argues that the state views citizens as liabilities on a balance sheet. If the pension bill is getting too high or the population is aging too comfortably, the authorities simply dial up the aging process.
So wrinkles, gray hair, organ failure, these aren't biology.
In Gomadza's worldview, no. They're digital watermarks. They are remote-controlled attacks sent by the government to speed up your expiration date so they don't have to pay you anymore.
That is such a cynical view of governance. But he goes even further than that. He talks about how these digital viruses get removed. And this is where I got a bit confused in the reading. He talks about a cleaner.
The cleaner is essential to understanding his view of how society currently operates. He argues that these digital viruses, this bad code of aging, are sticky. You can't just delete them easily if you don't have his tech. So the current system uses a transfer mechanism.
Like a scapegoat.
A literal biological scapegoat. He says the elite transfer their bad code, their sickness, their aging, onto people of lower status.
Oh, wow.
Foreigners, the poor, or people deemed disobedient. These people are the cleaners.
So the rich stay young by dumping their old age onto the poor.
Correct. And when the cleaner dies, or is quartered, as the text brutally puts it, the bad code dies with them. It's a form of digital human sacrifice. Gomadze is arguing that our entire economy is built on cannibalizing the vulnerable to extend the lives of the powerful.
Which explains why he needs a political revolution. Because even if I buy his $17 subscription and I use AGT 8000 to cure my death, doesn't matter if the government can just hack me or blow me up.
Exactly. You cannot be biologically immortal in a politically lethal world. The cure for death requires a cure for war. And that is where tomorrow's world order comes in.
The political party.
Yes. The manifesto side of this is just as detailed as the biological side. He identifies the root cause of our problems as the defensive economy.
Unpack that for us. What is a defensive economy?
It's his term for the military-industrial complex. He argues that world leaders are stuck in a primitive stage of evolution, which he calls stage 2 or 3. They don't know how to create wealth through cooperation or networking. They only know how to create wealth through fear and defense.
Building weapons to balance the budget.
And starting wars. But here's the kicker. He argues they don't just start wars for oil or land. They start wars to cull the population.
To reduce the wage bill.
It's the exact same logic as the hacking. Dead soldiers don't collect pensions. It's a brutal utilitarianism.
So his solution is to ban the defensive economy completely. One man for himself. TWO for us all. He wants to ban standing armies, ban weapon manufacturing, ban nukes.
A complete demilitarization of the planet.
But, and I think any listener is going to ask this, how do you enforce that? If you ban armies, and a dictator decides to invade his neighbor anyway, what do? You have no army to stop him.
You send in the assassins.
The legal assassins.
This is the paradox at the heart of TDO. He wants total peace, but his method for achieving it is highly specific, legalized violence. He proposes retraining the military not as a brute force army, but as a corps of elite, well-paid assassins.
I have to admit, when I read the logic behind this, I found it surprisingly compelling. In a dark way, obviously.
It's efficient. He asks the question, why kill 500,000 soldiers and civilians, women, children, people who have no say in the matter, just to remove one problem leader?
Right. The leaders sit in bunkers while the 18-year-olds die in the trenches.
Gomadze wants to invert that risk. He proposes a set of fundamental laws. You cannot manufacture weapons. You cannot hack your citizens. You cannot start a war. If a leader violates these laws, the assassin is triggered.
And the assassin targets only the leader.
0 civilian casualties. That is the absolute mandate. He argues that if a president or a king knew with 100% certainty that starting a war would result in their own personal death, not the death of a soldier, but their death war would vanish overnight.
It's skin in the game taken to the absolute extreme.
It's shifting the fear from the populace directly to the politician. And remember, this ties right back to the biology. Gomadze is saying, I'm giving you the tech to live for 8,000 years, but I need to create a political system where it is safe to live that long.
Because you can't plan for the next millennium if you're worried about a nuclear bomb dropping tomorrow.
Precisely. The biological cure and the political cure are two sides of the exact same coin.
So we have the tech to reset our bodies. We have the assassins to keep the peace. But there's one final layer to this deep dive, the theological endgame. Because Gomadze isn't just trying to make us immortal humans. He thinks we are fundamentally misunderstanding what we actually are.
This is where the text moves into stage 5 of life value. He outlines a developmental ladder for humanity. Right now, we are in the lower stages. Instinctual, willing to die for a flag, disposable.
But the goal is stage 5.
Becoming God.
And his interpretation of Scripture here is fascinating. He uses an analogy of a lecturer and student.
It completely flips the traditional religious narrative. Most religions teach that Earth is a testing ground, and if you are good, you get to go to heaven. Gomadze says, no.
He says heaven is God's house.
Right. And Earth is man's house. He argues that God gave us the earth and the tree of life, which Gomadze interprets as the data, the knowledge to cure death, and he expects us to figure it out.
So dying and going to heaven isn't a promotion.
In Gomadze's view, it's a failure. He compares it to a student failing a class and having to move back into his parents' basement. If you die, you have failed the test of biology. You have failed to maintain your house.
That puts a massive amount of pressure on the individual. Usually, religion offers comfort in the face of death. It tells you it's okay, you're going to a better place. Gamadz is saying, no, you are supposed to make this the better place.
It's a theology of extreme self-reliance. He says we are meant to be small gods on earth. We are supposed to have dominion. If we let our bodies rot, or if we let our governments kill us in wars, we are basically insulting the creator who gave us the tools to solve those exact problems.
It really is a total system, isn't it? When you first look at the sources, you see shitbelt and Planet Bin and legal assassins, and it just looks like chaos. But when you step back, every single piece locks together.
It does. The biological resets handle the hardware, the LoveThink protocol handles the software security, the legal assassins handle the physical security, and the theology provides the motivation. It answers the how, the why, and the what for.
The what for being to stay here, to fix the glitch.
Precisely. It's a total rejection of escapism. Don't escape to heaven. Don't escape to death. Fix the code. Reset the switches. Save the world.
It's incredibly ambitious. And honestly, it's a little exhausting just thinking about the level of responsibility he's asking us to take on. But I want to leave you, the listener, with one specific concept from the source material that really stuck with me.
What's that?
Gamadzda talks about the day of death. He calls it day.
The expiration date.
Right. The day you are historically scheduled to die. And his entire promise is that with AGT 8000, you can rewrite that date. You can push it back 800 years, 8,000 years, maybe forever. You can ask utilities for a reset.
It's the ultimate freedom.
It is. But here's the question I want you to mull over. If you strip away the command lines and the compass directions, if this technology actually sat on your desk today, would you use it?
That is the big question.
If you could look in the mirror, open a laptop, and decide to stay exactly as you are for the next 8,000 years, would you actually want the weight of that responsibility? Or is there something strangely comforting about the fact that eventually day comes for us all?
I think the software might be ready, but I'm not sure the user is.
That is definitely a thought to hold on to. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.